Good morning, one and all. This is Finding the Truth Everywhere with an Open Door. And we today are looking at the podcast with Keith Kavanaugh, Is A Course in Miracles Non-Duality? We're going to talk about that this morning or this afternoon. But first, we're going to listen to a song, a wonderful song. Take it away, Cindy.
Sometimes I'm right and I can be wrong. My own beliefs are in my songs. Butcher, the baker, the drummer, and then makes no difference what group I'm in.
But sometimes I'm right and I can be wrong. My own beliefs are in my song. The butcher, the banker, the drummer, and then it makes no difference what group I'm in. 'Cause I am everyday people.
There is a blue one that can't accept the green one, for living with the fat one, trying to be a skinny one. Different strokes for different folks, and so on and so on. And Scooby-Dooby-Dooby-Doo, sha-sha. We got to live together.
I am no better, and neither are you. We are the same, whatever we do. You love me, you hate me, you know me, and then you still can't figure out the thing I'm in.
'Cause I am everyday people.
Yeah, yeah.
There is a long hair that doesn't like the short hair, for being such a rich one that will not help the poor one. Different strokes for different folks, and so on and so on. And Scooby-Dooby-Doo, sha-sha. We got to live together. There is a yellow one that won't accept the black one, that won't accept the red one, that won't accept the white one. Different strokes for different folks, and so on and so on. And Scooby-Dooby-Doo, sha-sha. I am everyday people.
Well, I love watching all of your faces.
Great.
That was great. Such a unifier. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Barbie, for your rocking out. Okay, so I am just going to share a few thoughts, a few of my takeaways, these little gems, so many gems from Keith, and then I would love to hear all of your beautiful shares. So he's so first of all, I find him extremely entertaining and engaging with his laugh and his hand motions, and these are some of my the highlights that really spoke to me. So he talks about how the Course tells us that only love is true, and that is non-duality. And he goes on to say that there's there's no question that the Course talks out of both sides of its mouth, um, which can cause confusion and, or division. Um, and he says, "Well, why does it do this?" So, um, I just as a little personal note, I have to say that, I do feel I have felt that through the years, but I have never felt, like it was I was sharing with Amy recently that for me, the Course, it's never there's nothing in it that I disagree with. It's completely 100% of the time resonated with me. But I really appreciate Keith's explanation of this because there are certain things where I'm like, "What does that mean?" Like the coming in second that he alludes to later. So what he says, why does the Course do this? Um, and he shares that the Course uses symbols to meet us where we think we're at. And I really appreciate the distinction of him saying the Course uses symbols of where we think we're at as opposed to where we're at. It's where we think we're at. Um, and it's so gentle. The Course, I love that about the Course. And he emphasizes that it's very gentle and it doesn't beat us over the head. And that the course, I love this word. He says it anthropomorphizes, humanizes God to aid us in letting go of this fear that we have of God, of spirit. Um, and one of his examples is about God weeping over lost children. And clearly this is not true because there's no separation. Um, so he emphasizes many times, you are heaven. You have never not been heaven. And I think this is hard for many of us to wrap our brains around, to live and to to you know to truly know this. And he says, well, how do we get to this place of truth about ourselves? And I love this. He says we need a forgiveness practice. He and he says, "This is not about skipping down the street, singing, 'Woohoo, we're all one.'" Um, it's a practice of confronting the shadow and seeing the guilt and fear in our mind. And sometimes I think we know it's there, and sometimes we don't know, and it rises up, and so he says, "Do the workbook," and then the Course leads us to complete non-duality, the truth that we are heaven and we are the kingdom. And I and I love that he says it's a way out. Forgiveness, it's a way out of the delusion. And he keeps saying the delusion of being frantic and distraught. And it feels like that in this dense world. Um, it's it's an illusion and delusion that we're a separate self, this frantic and distraught me. Um, and if we can learn to witness the illusion, which is sometimes very tricky, if we can witness the illusion of separateness without trying to fix it, if we can learn how to forgive it instead of believing it, then we realize we have little snippets of us being the kingdom of heaven. These are the holy instants. And he says forgiveness will bring you home where you never left. And this is my final comment. I really like this part. He said, when there's a total lack of interest in the past, just thoughts, and a lack of interest in the future, again, only thoughts. When you let that all go, and then there's this unspeakable now, the indivisible, the holy instant, the heaven that you are. Well, that's it for me. I there's just so much, but I do not want to take up any more time. I would love to hear from all of you. Rana,
Hey, hi
hello.
everyone. I'd like to go first because things may blow up at any moment here. I've got people working on the bathroom, but I enjoyed this too. It was helpful. Um, the first thing that happened for me was I started listening to it after Monday's meeting of Rubber Meets the Road. And the sentence that he was kind of jumping off of for a while was the thing about God weeps for the people that think they're lost. So I watched the ego's response to him really emphasizing that. And there was a lot of defense that came up and a lot of perceiving myself as wrong, as having wrongly pointed out that sentence. And as I sat with it, it's been really neat. I went back and I read that sentence for myself again. And when I read that now, I hear it as sarcasm. You know, God weeps for those that just have no idea what this real world is about. And so with that, I just kind of was like, it doesn't matter what he thinks or anybody else thinks. This is like the message I'm trying to give you, you know, it's too bad everybody has the opportunity, but it's not for everybody's journey, you know. So that I just wanted to get that out of the way. It was very interesting how it hit my ego, the ego. For me, it was important that he said there is nothing to become. We're already it. And that this is a journey of subtraction, not addition. And you know, so that's I feel like I'm being undone, and to have the wherewithal to sit and look at what I just explained is a new practice, you know. How did that make me feel? How am I feeling right now? Where is that energy happening? Do you feel guilty? You know, just all the like little things that I can continue to investigate about this self, this persona. And they're not bad things. He used the word consciousness a couple of times that I felt like it wasn't pointing to consciousness because he said consciousness and world have been faulty formulated as splits from God. So, like, I'm thinking about that first cause, and then maybe he's kind of pointing that consciousness and the thing that wants to experience it as different is maybe a different level of that. And that was what I was getting from a lot of what he was talking, is that he said there's a lot of contradiction in the course at the level of form. So it's about where am I reading this from? Who are the words in the page talking to? The small s self or the big S, you know, and that for me. So I found that an interesting discourse. But the whole idea that everything is God, beyond the first, he said there's no other, right? It's just, you know, taking on these aspects of a dream and appearances and all those kind of things, that there's nothing else but God. And that even the experience of being a separate self is God. So that's kind of juicy right there. He went into the idea about the need for correction. And of course, my smart ass mind says, well, why does there need to be correction if everything's God? And so I sat with that for a second. Well, because you're not seeing the truth. You're seeing as ego, as a little less limited self. And the course is like poking me to say, let's see wider, wide angle lens. You know, let's look at this from a different place. And so perhaps it does need some correction, and that I can forgive the small s self for what it does, the Rana-ing that it does. Oh, look at her again, Sandra. Look at what she's up to. It's so helpful. But really, what came to me is if everything is included, then the ego thoughts of separation and all of that thinking and the things that we look at, that's all included too. It's all the juicy journey, from a home we never left to discover what we truly are. Reality appearing as illusion without ever ceasing to be reality. And now what's being pointed to me is when I take that moment and I notice what's here now, there's where the reality becomes the primary, because what's here now are not thoughts. They may rise and fall, but that's not what's here now. What's here now is what I am, is the presence. So I enjoyed it. And the last thing I wanted to share is he said, discovering what you are where there are no words. And I think that's the willingness and motivation to sit quietly and be still. And when I was still new to this, it required doing it in a group, just to get my feet wet with it. Oh, I can sit still for 10 minutes. And now I've learned that I can do that because you're with me always doing it. What I am is shining as everything. And for me, this is what I wrote. It feels like form is dropping and non-duality is being realized. But it doesn't change anything about the way of being. It's just another realization of what this being is. It's so much more than what I thought it was. So thank you for letting me share. And Michelle, thank you so much for being willing to take the meeting today. Beautiful.
Oh, Rana, thank you. Thank you for your share. I thank you. That was beautiful and very, it really is an undoing. Um, and as I was listening to you, it reminded me about how the course is, there are so many levels, I feel like I know so many people who are scientifically minded or who are more woo woo, and who the course just, it's so beautiful how it can, because Keith, on some level for me, I he chooses certain passages, or whatever we want to call it, certain lines or chapters from the course that don't really resonate for me. Ones that I wouldn't pick, but the feel I get from him, the message is profound and powerful. So I would pick different ones, but you know what I mean? It's so beautiful and fun how we can all bring something to help with the undoing. So thanks, Rana. Cindy, were you next, or was Amy next? Cindy.
I love us so much. I have pages of notes like others. There's only one thing I'm going to bring up now. Um, how often am I in this class where I go to speak and with you, not class, and I feel like I want to cry. Um, Over and over and over again. I was saying it before we hit the record button. He kept saying the course doesn't care. Course doesn't care. The course doesn't care that you want to argue about level confusion. The course doesn't care. And the ego can get real upset about that. And I'm not the only one in this room that has been in and out of these conversations about what the course is and about what the course isn't, and how the course doesn't have it because of the length, whatever, right? The course doesn't care that you're upset about its pronouns. The Course doesn't care about whatever. Um, the Course is meeting you where you are and offering to take you the next step. And Regina used to be like Regina's path really started with the Course. I don't like I the older Regina teachings are extraordinarily close to my heart. And she had a realization. This is my interpretation of the story I heard her tell. It's been extraordinarily useful to me over the years. She said she was watching her young daughter watch Jimmy Neutron, and she sat and watched this episode of Jimmy Neutron. I don't know if you guys know, it's a cartoon, right? And Jimmy Neutron is this boy genius, like of crazy spaces. And Jimmy Neutron's closest friend, I don't remember his name, was stuck in a dream. And Jimmy Neutron's closest friend couldn't get out of this nightmare where he was being chased by an evil broccoli cartoon. Jimmy Neutron couldn't wake his friend up from the dream, right? He couldn't just say, "You're dreaming, wake the fuck up." Excuse my language. What Jimmy Neutron did was he created a machine that allowed him to consciously drop into his friend's dream. And when he dropped into his friend's dream, he couldn't reach his friend by telling his friend that the evil broccoli wasn't real. He couldn't do that. So instead, Jimmy Neutron helped his friend turn the evil broccoli into a friendly broccoli or something. I didn't watch the episode, but Jimmy Neutron met his friend where his friend was, and they resolved the problem at the level the problem resided in. And to me, when Keith was saying the Course doesn't care, it's actually more than that. It's like the years that I studied with people that were NLP experts, they said the same thing. If you want to teach others, you have to know where they are, and you have to be just one level above them. Otherwise, they won't see you. And so to me, that's what this idea of, meeting someone where they are, knowing where their consciousness is, hanging out with them and giving and being close enough to that to lend a hand. And so this Jimmy Neutron story has always landed with me. He couldn't wake his friend up from the dream. He found a way to get into the dream and resolve the monster broccoli from there and lift his friend out of the dream that way. And so for me, it's a huge, well, I'm going to leave it at that. There are hands raised, and I love us. And thank you, Michelle. This is so awesome watching you do this and being present for all of it.
Cindy, thank you. And I love when you get, I'm sorry, I love when you get misty. I get goosebumps a lot with us. And Jimmy Neutron, we love Jimmy Neutron. And what a genius. And what a genius move for them to make the broccoli evil and then transform him into a friend. Kids, eat your vegetables. Anyway, thank you, Cindy. Beautiful pointing. Amy. Hello, Amy.
Thank you so much for this. I really, really love it, Michelle. And for those of you who know, later on today, I lead a gathering that is all about finding the Advaita in A Course in Miracles. So I took a lot of notes on this one, and it just really so reinforced everything that I see in A Course in Miracles. And I also love that he said, the way that his hand movements were, I can't really quite I can't mimic them, but yeah, he's just so full of expression with his hands. And it does anthropomorphize God. It does. And I love that he admitted that, and I like the way he said that. And I I think that when we stop anthropomorphizing God and are willing to find another term that includes everything, that we will have reached a point in our transcendence where we've really made some progress. Because I do get really sick of hearing about God being anthropomorphized. It's like, come on, can't we find another way? So, and you said A Course in Miracles is a journey of subtraction. And that I was just listening to our talk for next week, and the gentleman that's talking said exactly the same thing. It's really, he said, you have to either come at this, you have to come at this from the point that, am I whole? Am I already whole? Or am I not? Do I need to become something more in order to know my perfection? And if you come at it from, we're already whole, then you're just getting rid of the things that get in the way of your seeing that you're whole. So I loved all of his examples. I really liked the first in time means nothing, but the first in eternity is God the Father, the Absolute, who is both first and one. Beyond the first, there is no other, for there is no order, no second or third, and nothing but the first. I love that. I think that's great. And then he followed that up. What seems to be second place is first. For all things we perceive are upside down until we listen to that voice for God. It seems that we will gain autonomy, but by our striving to be separate, and that our independence from the rest of God's creation is the way in which salvation is obtained. And yet all we find is sickness, suffering, and loss and death. This is not what our Father, the Absolute, wills for us, nor is there any second to God's will. To join with God's will is but to find our own. And since his will is his, I won't go on, our will is his or its. And that's really, I just think that says it all. It says it all. And the last thing I just want to talk about is he says, you can decide between what is fixed because there are no alternatives except truth and illusion. So what you can decide between is fixed because there is only either truth or illusion, and there's no overlap between them because they're opposites, which cannot be reconciled and cannot both be true. You are guilty or guiltless, bound or free, unhappy or happy. So I know we could go much more deeply into that lesson, which is what I really so appreciate about this group. And the fact that we can have a discussion about that shows me what amazing teachers we all are. The fact that we can go even deeper into that lesson is really phenomenal. So I love us, and thank you again, Michelle. Really great choice. Great choice.
Thank you, Amy. We are all leading this meeting. It's so awesome. And thank you for your it's it is such a I keep saying it's such a dense world, but it's so comforting to hear that there is nothing to become and that there's nothing to fix or no one to fix. And I meant to say before calling your name, or after calling your name, I meant to say, come to the head of the table. So I'm going to say, Melanie, I'm going to use it on you because, and Amy, Melanie, come to the head of the table.
Thank you. And it's wonderful to be here. with everyone as always. And yeah, I always get a lot from Keith's vibrant discussion and commentary. I just pick out just a few. One thing that really struck me, and it reminded me of Helen Hamilton, was when he talked about only God is only reality, and he also said that there's ultimately there's no subject. So that really sunk in because there's it led me to remember Barbie, because Barbie was talking about, and maybe you've talked about this before, her experience of seeing the vibrancy of the trees and all around her. It was so beautiful. And it occurred to me that that's living without a subject, because there was no Barbie seeing the tree. It was just this. And this was all there was. There was no going through the filter of a Barbie. It was just no subject. And I think Barbara, you really expressed what that must be like, to take away the I or the me, and to live from just a place of now being all there is, which is what I think he was pointing to. So I thought that was really beautiful, and I appreciate Barbie's sharing that with us so much. In fact, I found this is from Tony Parsons, who is they call him a radical non-dual. So I guess there's levels of non-duality, but he's considered a radical non-duality, where there's no person anymore. It's just this. And he says, when we see a tree, we think me or I am seeing a tree over there, whereas the tree is arising as what is. So it's just the isness of everything. So I was really grateful for that. And one other thing I picked up, he talked about the work of forgiveness. So I guess he's talking, there's nobody that is doing it. See, if there's nobody, so it's just, I guess, awareness or is flowing through. That's what's arising. So and he's also probably talking at a different level too, when he's saying, well, I was thinking, like, who's doing the work of forgiveness? Well, if that forgiveness flows through us, that's just awareness expressing through that. You see what I'm saying? There's no me doing the work. But if that's what's just arising, then that's what's just arising, is that forgiveness. Yeah. Anyway, I was questioning, who's doing the work, if that makes any sense. So anyway, that was my wonderful take on all that. And thank you, Michelle. So good to be with everyone.
Thank you, Melanie. That actually, your comment about the work, it takes a lot of the definition of effort. You know what I mean? It takes
Right.
the
Effortless, because it's just maybe it's happening, and it's just
right.
happening through this body mind. And it's not the me that's doing it. It's just what's arising and expressing through this body mind, and it's expressing it as appearing as forgiveness.
Yes. You just gave me the goosebumps again. And thank you for reminding us about Barbie. I would love to hear more about at some point whenever you're in the mood. It made me think about Keith talking about, he has a similar experience. I'm not sure, maybe Richard can expound on this. He had a similar experience with a stick of butter. So I would love to hear. I mean, I just think it's so, what a gift. I would love to hear more whenever the spirit moves you. Hello, Sandra. Good morning. Good afternoon. Come to the head of the table.
Thank you, Cindy. Sometimes this doesn't work. Hi, everybody. And honestly, okay, the first thing I want to say is this was the first time I think I've heard him. And there was in the beginning, it was very long. So in the first hour, I had a similar reaction to Rana in that I started feeling defensive, but it wasn't about me. I was feeling defensive about the course itself. But then as I got towards the end, he kind of explained why he was saying all of those things. And having listened to this and having had the wonderful experience of having Amy on Thursdays, finding the non-duality in the course, it seemed a different approach. And the approach that Amy, my interpretation of the approach she takes, is not to point out all the non-dual stuff, but she emphasizes, well, no, she points out the non-duality in it and doesn't try to lessen the truth of the other parts, if that makes sense. So, oh my gosh, it's hard to explain what I'm feeling. There was like this surge of energy that said to talk, and now I don't know what I'm saying. So, what is it? What I started reading the course in the 90s and doing the lessons, and I never found any contradictions. Nothing ever felt contradictory to me. Nothing felt untrue, just as you were saying, Michelle. All seemed true. And when Keith was saying, this isn't true, or this is a faulty interpretation, that did not resonate with me at all. Because when I read the course, I didn't read it as a technical manual. I didn't read it as, it's almost literature in some ways. Some of it feels like literature. So to me, there are many metaphors in the course. And God weeping is a metaphor to me. It's not that it's not true. I didn't take it as literal. There was a man weeping tears, the way he was describing it. I never took it that way. It was a way of showing us as people, a way of demonstrating as a metaphor of the feelings of the caring towards humanity that the guides tell us all the time, how we are so cared for. That's how I took it. I didn't take it as a contradiction in any way. And I still don't. When I read the course, I don't have any need to figure out what level I'm being spoken to. It's just the truth of what it's saying in the moment. And I could read the same lesson 10 different times and get a different truth, a different meaning. And it always is true to me. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't have the need to figure out what's dual, what's non-dual in the Course in Miracles. It's just not useful to this particular experience. And there's something that wants to say that even no matter what path or approach that I take, I don't want to be fit into any box. I don't want to be limited by any particular approach with its definitions and its structures, because Source is unlimited. I am unlimited. I can be dualistic and non-dualistic at the exact same time in the exact same moment. I can be experiencing duality and knowing that I'm one and enjoying all of the experience. And but I know as I'm saying all this that perhaps I'm just not at the same level as all of you who do that. Maybe I'm not. And I don't really care. I got the part about the Course doesn't care. I like that you brought that out, Cindy, because I feel that Source cares deeply, but the course itself isn't trying to parse everything up into little sections. And I liked it when he pointed that out in the clarification of terms later in the video, that it's not trying to make everything into neat little boxes. So I'm so grateful to the Course in Miracles that it came through Helen, that she was willing to write it down. And if I'm going to believe part of it, then I need to believe all of it, because it all came from the same source. Am I making any sense? I
Totally.
don't know if I am.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, it's just, it's a beautiful thing. And Amy, when you teach it, that's how I feel. I don't feel like you're trying to negate any part of it, but I did feel that there was sarcasm. There was this sarcasm that came through. And I didn't relate to that. I didn't relate to the sarcasm about some of the things. Some of the words and the way the words are presented in the course. So I can see hands going up. Maybe you all can straighten me out. But I don't even feel like I need to be straightened out.
Oh, you don't.
Yeah,
You don't
I'm
need to be.
happy
You're,
with. Yeah.
yeah, no, that was awesome. This is really fun because what you just said completely resonates with me, and what he says resonates with me.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like, oh, I love what you said about we're not here to be put in a box. And
Yeah.
I feel like there is some division amongst Course in Miracles students, and he's kind of addressing that, you know, like saying, hey guys, you know, um,
So I do have one other thing that I've just remembered that I wanted to talk about. When I first started doing the course and I was talking to people, some people said to me, "You're like Pollyanna." I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember Pollyanna.
I've been called that too.
Oh, you have? Okay. It was really funny because and when Keith was saying, you don't want to go around saying everybody is one and everything is beautiful and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I do that all the time. And so I went and watched that movie after I got called Pollyanna. It was in a 12-step meeting. They kept calling me, "She's here comes Pollyanna." So I watched the movie. And it's a movie, if you haven't seen it, I suggest if you can find it. This little girl goes around this town treating everybody with love, even the most nasty person in town. And she, in the end, the whole town changes for the better. The whole town becomes loving.
See,
And
Sam,
she is made fun of. She is made fun of for being that way. So I don't mind being called Pollyanna anymore. And I am careful when I speak, but when I speak, and if I'm saying something that seems overly optimistic or whitewashed in some way, I don't care. I know what the truth is. And if I am being urged by whatever to speak of it, let it fall where it may.
see, I think thank you for that. The way being a fellow Pollyanna, the way I took that, the skipping down the street, I liked that because for me, sometimes I want to skip down the street and not do the workbook. So that's why it spoke to me. And by the way, I think you and I are like a combo of Pollyanna and Ted Lasso. Let's go with that.
Oh, good. I love Ted Lasso.
Me too.
Okay, thank you for letting me speak for so long.
Thank you, Sandra. That was awesome, as always. Okay, my computer. Okay, so is it Amy or Richard? Who's next? Amy?
I'm happy to let Richard go first since he hasn't spoken yet, and I know he loves Keith, so I'll go after Richard.
Hello, Richard.
Morning,
Thanks.
everyone. Great conversation. So much to talk about. I agree with Cindy. The funniest thing in the whole interview was the course doesn't care what you think. And that's true of your interpretation of the course. Whatever you think is okay. I mean, that's what the whole lesson is. We have 5 versions of the Course in Miracles that most students use. And they all argue about their version is the best course. I find that's ridiculous. If we're all one, there's only one pointing. So you can argue about which course to follow, or it doesn't make any sense. And what I love about Keith is one of the things he does, if you join his Facebook group, there's no argument about what different courses say. You have to agree up front in order to be part of his group that you will only use the FIP version of the course, period. And that's it. I mean, we're not going to discuss what course is better than the other course book. And in the introduction to the FIP version, there's a section called "It Is What It Is," and in that it says, at the end, you were blessed with your own teacher, own internal teacher. It doesn't say you will follow this teacher in the world or that teacher's interpretation of the. No, you'll be left with your own internal teacher. In other words, you will be guided as you experience a life on the course on your own teacher, your own intuition, and your own belief in what you perceive God to be or the Holy Spirit to be, whatever label you want to give that force energy that comes through you when you know that this is true. So, but I had to watch. I hadn't seen that episode in a few months, so I had to watch it again. I loved the way he laughs. He's not. I laugh a lot, as you probably know, and I also had a problem with the God thing when I found the course. I was looking for a spiritual path. I used to go to a bookstore, metaphysical bookstore, every week. I find a book and I would read the book, and then I would go back, find another book the next week. And I remember I've been through about 4 or 5 books, and I was there one Saturday and I found this blue book. It said The Course in Miracles. I picked it up. I opened it up. I saw the word Jesus. I closed it, put it back on the shelf. I found another book. And next week I went back. I was drawn to that book again. I picked it up, opened it up, saw the word Jesus, put it back on the shelf. And I found another one. Third week I went back. I was drawn to that book again. I said, something's going on. I picked it up. I saw the word Jesus. I closed it, put it back on the shelf. But this week I noticed there was a number of pamphlets, Introduction to A Course in Miracles. So I said, I'll read the pamphlet. I bought the pamphlet. I read the book, I said, I can deal with this. I was drawn to it. So the next week I bought the course. And so I like the idea of an internal teacher versus an external God. And then when I started studying the course, the whole oneness thing came up. And I said, what the hell what is oneness? I was raised Catholic, so I was raised to believe in the Trinity, 3 in 1. And that never made sense to me. How can we be 3 in 1? There's either one or there's not one. So after a few months of agonizing on this question, my my logical mind. I was raised to be a critical thinker, and you solve problems in your life by thinking them out, reasoning, finding data, analyzing the data, making a decision. I'm very comfortable with that process. My professional law, I was a decision maker. That's all I did was analyze the facts and make a decision based on. So I applied those skills in my study of the course, and I finally came to the conclusion there can only be one. So that meant I didn't exist. Because if there's only one, there can be no separate ideas, no separate people, no separate thoughts, no separate anything. There's only one. So I was comfortable, but I accepted that as now. There weren't a whole lot of people that agree with my understanding of undifferentiated oneness. So, and I found out over the years in my course study group that people had different interpretations of the course. And we would argue. We would say, well, no, that's all the course. Well, that's what the course says to me. Blah, blah, blah. I have one friend in particular, we're so good friends. We meet every month for lunch, and he's on a different path than I am. But he would say, well, where in the course does it say that? So I was more general. My understanding was I wasn't used to it. Well, chapter 13, paragraph so and so, section so and so, paragraph so, it says so. So I had to do that. I had to become more disciplined. And I found out from those exercises that regardless of what you believe, you will find a sentence or a paragraph in the Course in Miracles that will justify your belief. I will rephrase it. There is no one book or one written statement anywhere or one idea that is the absolute truth. The absolute truth is oneness, where there is no thought, there is no beliefs, there is no concept. So, it's taken me many years to come to that realization, but the more I embrace that realization, the happier I am. And that when I first started listening to Keith about a year ago, I guess, I used to get upset because I would say after the session, that's ACIM 101. I'm an advanced student. I want to hear what happens after you wake up. I want to stop hearing about all the bad shit about the ego and the sin, guilt, and fear we all have to deal with. I'm not beyond that. I want to have the happy dream. I want to believe in how do I use the course, be happy every day, be happy from moment to moment. And but I love Keith because he keeps repeating over and over again until I finally hammers it into your head. This is what the truth is. And you will accept it when you're ready to accept it. And if you're not ready to accept it, that's okay. Just go with the flow. Suffer as long as you want. Choose again whenever you want. If you want to be happy, choose to be happy. If you want to be sad, choose to be sad. If you want to be whatever, choose it and be it. And just, so I love you all. I love listening to Keith, and I love our conversation.
Thank you, Richard. That was beautiful. And I love your journey and ending with go with the flow. And if you want to suffer, well, suffer. It's all good. If you want to be happy. Thank you. When you were talking, I was like, oh, it's just the course. It really does transcend space and time. It's just it does a pretty darn good job of. I mean, human language. It's hard to it really is hard to encapsulate the unspeakable, but the course does a pretty darn good job. I'm grateful, as Sandra said, I'm grateful to Helen as well. I'm so grateful for the course. Amy, Amy, Amy.
Oh, this is so good. This could go on for another hour. It's really so juicy. Sandra said that A Course was a what did she literature, which I really agree with. I think it's a great piece of literature. And it's true, but every single thing in it isn't truth. And but it has everything pretty much in it. And I just want to read this from the text. It's chapter 18. And it says right out there really clearly, God is not a body. Right there, God is not a body. It's only the awareness of the body that makes love seem limited. For the body is a limit on love. The belief in limited love was the origin. It was its origin, and it was made to limit the unlimited. Think not that this is merely allegorical, for it was made to limit you, meaning the small self. Can you, who see yourself within a body, know yourself as an idea? How often have we been talking about it's all idea, right? And there it is. It just lays it right out there. Everything you recognize, you identify with externals, something outside yourself. You cannot even think of God without a body, or in some form you think you recognize. Right? And that's where I think I just get so ready to be done with this anthropomorphizing and, the father weeping, because I think to some extent it verifies and justifies a way of thinking that I think a lot of us are ready to move beyond. And so I just that's why I love these conversations, because I think we're moving beyond it and we're recognizing it. The egoic mind doesn't even know that it can question its thoughts. It doesn't even know it. And so the course is just, it recognizes it can't teach any mind that is resisting. So it flies under the radar of the egoic mind and gets in through the back door. And that's what it's doing on every level. That's the genius of A Course. It's speaking to us now who know we're not a body, and it speaks to the first student who's reading it for the first time. That's what I love about it. So thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Beautifully put. Beautifully put. Hello, Dago.
Hi, everyone. So great to be here, and I love this conversation. So great. For me, it was so amazing because God came to me and told me, I got you. And I'm just like, what? And then, it took 6 years. And what was so amazing is even recently, God told me, let everyone do whatever they're doing. It's perfect. Let them think they know what to do. Don't stop them. Let them. Love them. Like the heater, or I learned that it took a while, but I learned that that's not the correct way or whatever. And so I shared it with one of the girls who's helping me. And she's like, no, it should be like blah, blah, blah. And I was going to correct her, and God told me, no, let her say and do whatever she's doing and love her. And it just taught me, wow, whatever's happening, it is perfect. Whenever anyone's doing something that I know is not correct or what God told me, I don't need to say anything. And that's why I love the teaching from Ramana, because he was silent for 2 years because he knew the words that were coming out of his mouth were not true. And so I love that. I love that. It just stopping, just stop. We don't have a clue what anything is. And if we think we do, that's not true. I mean, we can, or we can do whatever we think, but I'm just saying, I've just learned just stop and listen to God, and listen and learn. And so anyway, I just love being here, and I just love so much being here, and I love all of you. So just thank you so much.
And Dago, thank you. We love you. I'm going to remember that. Actually, our two teenage boys, I think, would appreciate it if I were silent for 2 years. And I love your reminder that we don't have to fix people. I don't need to fix our teenage sons. Just love, love, love. Thank you, Indigo. Chuck, I'm excited to hear what you have to say as well.
Well,
Good morning. Good afternoon.
I'm just going to be real quick. I wasn't going to say anything because there was so much depth. I wanted to hear you and what everybody had to say around this. I got prompted somewhat to share this for whatever it is, all the differences. When I first picked up the course, I got the feeling it was said that everything was true, but also Ken Wapnick became very important to me, and it popped in for me to share this with, I don't know, the Pollyanna and all that stuff, but I remember I was really grateful to have Ken with some of his comments saying, be normal. Don't be a bliss ninny. If you lose a child, if you lose a job, if your house burns down, don't be a bliss ninny. Acknowledge what's going on and then use the course's lessons to heal and forgive. That really landed well with me. And it was always, don't be a course. I think, if somebody's sick, don't start criticizing them for not doing the course and that kind of thing. So that just popped into my head today. So I wanted to share that and get out here. I know we're running long in here. Thanks for listening. I love everybody. I really enjoyed all this, and I'm glad to be here and part of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Bliss ninny. That's a good term. Thank you for that distinction and that reminder. Okay, I know we're at the end of our hour here. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Great job, Michelle.
Love you all so much.
Yeah, this was wonderful. Let me just stop the recording, and then I have maybe 2 things to say.